Hey everybody, welcome back to another business analysis video. In today's video, we'll be exploring the topic, what questions do I ask during stakeholder interviews? As business analysts, part of our work is to speak with stakeholders, to draw out requirements and to understand stakeholder processes. But before we have these meetings, we need to prepare questions. Why are we going to these meetings? First, we need to understand what is the purpose of the meeting and what questions and information am I trying to draw out from the stakeholder. I decided to do this because I had a person contact me to ask about a project that she's doing, and she was asking what sort of questions should I ask in my interviews. I don't know how to think of the questions. I don't know how to ask. I don't know what I'm asking. And as newbie business analysts and experienced analysts, it can be quite challenging to think about what questions you're asking during these interview sessions with your stakeholders, and you might also worry to not miss out certain information that you're trying to draw out from the stakeholder. Now, before I go into today's video, stakeholder interviews have different reasons for having them, right? You could be doing that to understand their current processes. You could be doing the meeting to gather requirements. You could be doing the meetings to verify requirements and various other reasons, right? So first, you want to determine what exactly is the reason for my meeting for the stakeholder. So as a business analyst, what you want to do first before you have your interview with the stakeholder is to prepare, right? How do you prepare? You want to research your stakeholder. You want to know who is your stakeholder, what is their role, what are their pain points, and what do they expect from the project. So obviously you want to prepare before you go into that meeting. So there are so many different types of questions to ask in your stakeholder interview meetings. I'll cover two types today, but there are so many other different types. If you'd like to know the various other types with real life examples, click the link in description box to have access to an ebook that really specifies all the various types of questions you can ask together with project examples. Okay, so let's go back into the types of questions you ask. There are two types I'm covering today, which is open-ended questions and scenario-based questions. For your meetings, you can start with open-ended questions such as, can you describe the current process? What you currently do? Can you walk me through your as-is process? Another question could be, what challenges are you currently facing in your day-to-day work, in the tasks that are involved in the project? So those are two types of open-ended questions to ask during your stakeholder interviews. The second type is the scenario-based questions. You want to think of a scenario within the process that the stakeholder has possibly just explained. So with scenario-based questions, you are very much more specific, right? An example, how would you handle a claim dispute? So if we go back to the first open-ended question where it says, can you describe the current process? Let's assume it has to do with a claims process. The stakeholder has explained it. You can then go and ask specific questions relating to that process that the stakeholder has just described. How would you handle a claim, a little fly flying around here. How would you handle a claim dispute? Another example is, what is the process when a customer files multiple claims? The stakeholder in your initial open-ended question could have talked about multiple claims that clients are able to claim. So you want to kind of dive deep. I remember in one of my videos I talked about asking questions, diving deeper. Even though your stakeholder has explained the process, more questions will come up from that initial explanation of the end-to-end process of their tasks, of what they do on a daily basis, right? As a stakeholder is also talking about their process, they would also start to pinpoint some issues that they experience within those processes, and you can then further clarify those pain points. Coming back to the scenario-based questions, so those are the two types. I could give an example of how would you handle a process, how would you handle a specific impact on the process, such as claims dispute, or what is the process when a customer files multiple claims. Now, once you've asked all the questions, you are obviously taking notes, typing or documenting or writing the answers to these questions. You want to do a feedback loop with the stakeholder, so that you ensure clarity of what you've just discussed with the stakeholder. So don't just document it and say, oh, thank you for your time, and whatever, and close the meeting. You want to do a feedback loop. How do you do that? You want to summarize what you've understood from the discussion you've just had. This feedback loop, you can do it during your meeting, during your interview questions, and you can also do it at the end of the meeting. It's good to do a final one at the end of the meeting, but you can also do feedback loops between questions. One example is, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you need X, Y, and Z, right? You're just trying to clarify what the stakeholder has just explained. And they might even dive deeper and explain it a bit more so that you really understand what they're saying, just to ensure clarity. So always do that feedback loop for each of the questions you've asked, of each of the answers you've received from the questions you've asked, and then at the end of the meeting. So that's it for today. I just wanted to give those two quick examples of questions you can ask during stakeholder interviews. So in conclusion, please remember that stakeholder interviews are not just about asking questions. You're not just asking questions. You are trying to also understand the needs of the stakeholders. So don't just only focus on the questions you're going to ask, right? So it doesn't impact the outcome that you're trying to get from the meeting. Focus on actively listening to the stakeholder and understanding what their needs are. So that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed that content. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the content. You never know who it might help. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Peace.